everybody, today we're going to be reviewing how to find the mean absolute deviation of a set of data. Now, this quick technique, the MAM technique, remember MAM, are you mad, is to help you figure out the 3 steps that you need to take in order to solve for mean absolute deviation. So the MAM technique goes as follows. You will find the mean, then you will find the absolute, which is the difference between the data and your mean. And then you are going to find the mean again of your absolute values. So remember, my song goes mean, difference, mean again, mean, difference, mean again. So let's go ahead and put that into practice. Here we have a list that shows the weight of 6 rabbits in pounds. So this already tells me that I will have 6 numbers. I need to divide by 6 whenever I am finding my means. So keep that in the back of your head. Here are my 6 numbers. We have 5, 7, 5.5, 6.2, 6, and 6.8. So I'm going to find the average of those numbers by adding them all together. And when I add them all together, I would get 36.5. Now, use your logic. Does that make sense that that is my mean, that is the average of these 6 numbers? Not quite. There's one extra step that you might be missing out on, and that is dividing by the amount of numbers we have. In this case, it was 6 rabbits, so I know that I will need to divide by 6. Therefore, my mean is 6.08. So that is what I will be subtracting from my data in order to get my absolute values. So remember, the way that I like to do it is rewrite these numbers under each other like this: 7, 5.5, 6.2, 6, and then finally 6.8. This would be another good time to make sure you have all of your numbers. Remember, there were 6 rabbits, so again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values, so we are good. Now you're going to subtract that 6.08 from every single one of these numbers. Since this is the absolute value, that means that even if our calculator does give you a negative 1.08, we are just going to write 1.08 as a positive number because that's the distance from 0. When you do all that, this is what you would end up with. You would have all of these values given to you on your calculator. Let's think about the song again. Mean, difference, mean again. Mean again is your last step in order to find mean absolute deviation. So what you are going to do with all of these new data points that you just calculated is you are going to find the mean or the average of these new 6 points. Therefore, you would add them all up, and when you do that, you would get 3.5. Then there is one more step to calculate the mean, and that is to divide by the amount of numbers, which should still be 6. Therefore, your mean absolute deviation is 0.58. Now, let me quickly demonstrate what that means and how it's kind of useful to us. So, whenever we had the rabbits' weights given to us, they were 5, 7, 5.5. I just went ahead and plotted those on a number line. Then the first thing we did was we found the mean or the average of all of these rabbits' weights. That mean or average ended up being 6.08. Now, mean absolute deviation gives us a little more information about all of the numbers that we had. Mean absolute deviation tells you from the average, from the mean, about halfway or 0.5 to the left of the mean and 0.58 to the right of the mean is where those numbers were. So I have a mean absolute deviation of 0.5, meaning my points are about 5.5, which is half less than 6, all the way up to 6.5, which is half more than 6. And if you look at these data points, that is pretty true. That meaning that if you somehow got a mean absolute deviation of 6, does that make sense that all of your numbers are 6 less than the mean and 6 more than the mean? That seems excessive. So therefore, you can kind of check your answer and whether it makes sense by thinking about, are all of my points, all of my data points, the same distance to the left and to the right of the mean that I calculated initially? And that's how you figure out mean absolute deviation.